Economy joining us right now. The book is called The Third Revolution, The New Chinese State, and Elizabeth joins us now. Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Doug.
Do you know when Sting is coming to St. Louis? I'm sorry.
I don't, but I'd like to be able to buy his apartment, that's for sure.
Isn't that for sure?
Are you in New York? Why not, by the chance? Any chance?
Right now, I'm not, but I'm in San Francisco, but I do live in New York.
So you know where he lives right off the park there, doesn't he?
He lives on Central Park West, yeah.
Oh,
Beautiful
gee,
area.
what a horrible address, you know? Jiminy Christmas. All right, we need to get to the matter at hand, which is your book, talking about the new Chinese state. I understand that North Korea's Kim Jong-un made another visit to China. What's your interpretation of all of this?
Well, I think it's really interesting. If you look, for the first 5 years that Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un were in power, they never met. There was no love lost between these two leaders. But as soon as President Trump and Kim Jong-un decided to meet, then you had Xi Jinping spring into action because he was desperately afraid that China was going to be marginalized in this process. So they've had two meetings now, it appears, Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping, in the space of just, a month or so after 5 years of never meeting. And I think China's just trying to ensure that its interests are represented. It would like to see, as part of any deal, the U.S. withdraw its troops from South Korea. And Kim Jong-un didn't put that on the table in the beginning. It looked like a big win for the United States, but I think China's going to be in there poking to try to make sure that Kim strikes a hard bargain that's going to reflect China's interests.
Great deal of formality at that first visit taking place at the DMZ with the two gentlemen walking to the actual separation between the two countries, shaking hands, and then symbolically one steps across into the other one's country and then vice versa. Beyond that point, has there been anything concrete, or what are the rumors about what the conversations are that are taking place?
Well, I think, for South Korea's President Moon Jae-in, this was an amazing moment because he's been a backer of warmer and opening relations with North Korea for 20 years. And, he's finally in power, and he's been able to make this step. And I think for him, what he'd like to see, of course, is, a reunified Korea that's under, South Korean control. But that is unlikely to happen in the near future. And I think the issue now is everybody's gearing up for the meeting between President Trump and President Kim, which is scheduled to take place at some point the end of this month or the beginning of the next month. And, what are going to be the asks in the end? I think this is just a first step. But I guess what we're looking for is something, the beginning of a roadmap that's going to include a verifiable path to denuclearization of the peninsula of North Korea. And I think North Korea is going to want, a peace treaty, an agreement that the United States is not going to invade or try to overturn the North Korean government. And so we'll have to see how we get there. But a lot of interest at stake, a lot of different moving parts.
It's interesting to me because China has long been a supporter of North Korea. You could say they've actually been propping them up, so it would behoove them to try and see North Korea develop as a nation, hopefully. At the same time, we have to bring the United States into this because China, Americans want to sell products much more than we are already to China. I wonder if this is going to make things easier for our country to interact with China as a result of this.
I think it depends on how it plays out. Again, one of the things China had proposed for the negotiations between the United States and North Korea that they put on the table was a freeze for freeze, where North Korea would basically freeze its testing of its missiles and its nuclear weapons, and the United States would and South Korea would freeze their military exercises. But Kim Jong-un went ahead and said, okay, we'll freeze our testing, and then he didn't ask for that freeze in exercises. And that, undoubtedly made Xi Jinping unhappy because, he's got his own interests going there. And as far as the trade is concerned, I think, yes, the U.S. side is pushing hard. I think, and this is one thing that I talk about in my book, this idea of reciprocity and pushing back against China. They're simply too large for us now to think about as a developing country and giving them leeway, for intellectual property theft and sort of market access barriers to U.S. goods. There are so many different ways in which the Chinese make it difficult for U.S. companies to compete. And I have to say, frankly, I think that President Trump is right to push back hard. Now it's a matter of, the path forward and de-escalating the threat of a trade war, but making sure that whatever China promises, they actually do. Because China is very good at talking, and not necessarily living up to their part of the agreement.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. And when you get back to New York, let me know how much you're putting down on Sting's house.
I got to talk to my husband, but I'll definitely do that.
I'm sure that'll go over real well. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Appreciate it.